A crazy, crazy world. I wake up this morning, and the things that I'm seeing on Twitter are just honestly mind-blowing. It's funny when you think about how much the liberal masses are for actual government-enforced censorship. It is astounding to me that we can live in a country where we claim to be land of the free, home of the brave, all things considered. And yet we see things on Twitter like those openly calling for the censorship provided by Schwab, endorsed by the World Economic Forum. Right now, the Biden administration is also taking an interest in what is going on Twitter. These are the same people, ladies and gentlemen, that are the sheep that walked willingly into the government-created corrals of vaccinations. They didn't ask questions. They kept their heads down, and they did as they were instructed to do because sheep feel safe when there is somebody guarding them, when there's a shepherd, to protect them from the wolves and the lions and things such as that. These are self-made sheep. These are people that voluntarily assume this role in our society. They have no problem with this. They enjoy the idea of somebody else taking care of them. That's mind-boggling to me. I don't understand that, nor would I ever want to. We're seeing how the generations that have kind of paved the way are stepping aside now to where the newest generations, as far as entitlement, being spoiled, being led to believe that they are special and perfect already, there's no room for self-improvement. This is the generation that is now taking over, or they're stepping up on social media and making their voices heard. It's a sad day we're living in. And I mean that. I genuinely mean that. We are now having open debates on what classifies a man as a man and a woman as a woman. I never, in the history of my life, would have thought that we would have academic professors with their righteous indignation and political bias driving them forward, women and women can become men, that it goes beyond chromosomes. I read an article yesterday that talked about how it's not that women can get pregnant, it's that the ovaries are what allow for essentially the pregnancy to occur, for dropping the egg and then the womb, which what they're attempting to do is separate the sexual organs from the human being themselves, meaning those things do not define being a woman. They're just parts that exist on a human being that a man can have transplanted into him and then become a woman. This is how insane these people have become. And then when people like you and I speak out and say this is wrong, this is insane, we're condemned, we're chastised, we're called bigots, we're called haters, when all we want is to live in a world grounded in reality. That's all we want. But they have gone so far off the reservation, we are left to sit here going, what the hell is going on in this country? This is insanity. And it's only getting worse. It's only getting worse. But that's why they're calling so heavily to censor Twitter. Twitter right now is on fire. It's true. Twitter is blowing up. Conservatives are running to Twitter left and right now because it's true. The shadow bans have been lifted. I've even seen my own reach skyrocket. People actually seeing what I'm posting, and it's a good feeling. It's a good feeling that your opinions, or that whatever it is that you want to say, can actually be heard by those that choose to follow you. It would behoove Instagram and Facebook to take a note and apply this to their own platforms and watch the growth occur. Instead of pandering to the woke minority that are afraid to have dissenting opinion on these platforms. But instead of actually calling it dissenting opinion, they call it the opinions of racists and Nazis. Buzzwords and dog whistles that have been regurgitated down through the years now that fall on deaf ears. This is what they do. This is all they've got. When they've come to understand that the world is not going to be fair and they're not going to get what they want, they're not going to be favored, well, instantly comes the race card and the sexist card and this card and that card. And it gets to the point where you're just fed up and sick and tired of these entitled whack jobs. But does it really surprise you why so many of them wanted to get the vaccination? And again, please don't get me wrong. I am not against you getting vaccinated. I am all for freedom. You do what you want. I just don't like it being forced on the masses, as I've said repeatedly. But it doesn't end there with these people. They want more. They want control. They want you to do what they want you to do, think how they want you to think, and say what they want you to say. Getting into it to the news right now, and again, thank you for tuning in today. Josh is absent today, therefore there was no intro music. He's out taking care of some personal errands, so it's just me in the studio today. And thank you for joining me on the All-American Savage Show podcast. And here's the crazy part. Even our numbers on the show are going up. I'm sharing the podcast on Twitter. The algorithms aren't destroying me, and so the viewership is going up. It's amazing. It's amazing how this works, quite honestly. It's beautiful in a sense. But we talk about them wanting to control the narrative. Well, let's take a step back real quick before we dive into this, ladies and gentlemen, because I want to make an accurate comparison of you for you. What other countries have you seen attempt and actually succeed in controlling the news networks, what's allowed to be published, how it's written, who is and is not allowed to be criticized? What other countries have we seen this occur in? Off the top of my head, I can think of one, China, the CCP. Controlling information and so-called, parentheses, misinformation, government-controlled propaganda. Where have we seen that before to the point where it affected a society so much that it led to just worldwide violence? I think it was something to do with the Third Reich. History does repeat itself, and ladies and gentlemen, we are heading in that direction very quickly. Very quickly. I want to show you this article. Critics slam timing of Biden's Ministry of Truth to police internet for disinformation. This is real. For those that don't know, Biden is talking about establishing a Ministry of Truth. The DHS that was once used for 9/11 to protect America here at home, which this administration is doing a poor job of. The borders are just wide open. We had what do we get from this DHS? We got the Patriot Act, where individual rights were violated. The government spies now. They can see into every single thing you do if they suspect you of being a terrorist. Well, at first, even I had fallen for this, but, to be fair, I was 17, 18 years old. I didn't understand what the Constitution meant. I didn't get it. But now at 37, we still have it. Now, what has it led to? Well, if the statement rings true that the path to hell is paved with good intentions, one just has to take a look at what has happened as a result of the Patriot Act. You have the politicization, if you will, if I'm probably saying that wrong, of the FBI to spy on certain political candidates. We see the long arm of the government coming in there and uprooting anyone that is not in agreement with their tyrannical viewpoints. Where have we seen this? COVID for the last 2 years. Disagree with Lord Fauci, you will find yourself quickly censored. Be a doctor that has a different opinion, post it on social media, and watch as you are quickly removed. These are real things that occur. Conservatives on social media slammed the Biden administration after it was announced that a disinformation governance board, this is a real thing, is being established to combat disinformation in the 2022 midterms. Now, look, there is so much to unpack right here. There is so much to unpack. Number one, another federal organization being stood up. What could possibly go wrong? What could realistically possibly go wrong with establishing just another three-letter agency under the federal government? As I take a sip of my coffee out of my Shell Shock mug. To combat disinformation. Well, what is disinformation? Like, all I've seen is that disinformation is what they equate to being anything that does not go in line with their science. The CDC has openly admitted they got many things wrong during the COVID pandemic, and many people that were speaking out against them were silenced. Well, at the time, they thought that was disinformation, but come to find out, it was actual honesty. It was truth. It was facts. And the government got it wrong. This is the very core reason why the government should never be the arbiter of free speech. More times than not, the government gets it wrong. Now, I don't know about you, but I don't want some board of overlords in suits, some bureaucrats, getting fat and rich off of taxpayers' money when all they do is pass more laws to suppress and tax harder. I do not want this board telling me what I can and cannot say on social media. Not in terms of going overboard of terms of services, but to openly disagree on stances such as COVID, the war in Ukraine, many similar things like that. It's no longer about having like a reasonable dissenting opinion. It's the fact they don't even want you to have an opinion outside of what they believe to be truthful, therefore eliminating any possibility of debate. Now, if you're like me, you love a good debate. Not for the simple fact of seeing one person win and one person lose, but to see different perspectives being thrown into the arena of discussion. Open discussion, might I add. These are things that we need. I'm pretty sure if we were to jump into a time machine and we go back thousands of years to Socrates, again, like I've said before, sitting on the steps of the Agora, do you think they didn't have debate? Of course they did. And if you are so rooted in your fundamental beliefs, regardless of the topic, you should be all for debate. To avoid it, to duck it, to not even allow it, what does that tell you? That you can't back what you say or claim to believe because it's rooted in emotion and not logical reasoning. That's why they pull away from this. That's why they run. That's why liberals are leaving Twitter en masse. They don't want anything to do with it. They don't like the idea of sharing a platform with people like yourself. They don't want to be there. They don't want to hear it. They want to live in their echo chamber. The reason they're establishing this board is the 2022 midterms. Now, Facebook itself came out and said that they're not going to meddle anymore, which they openly admitted they did meddle in the previous election. Why Zuckerberg and the rest of these nut jobs are not brought up on charges is beyond me. The justice system has failed. The justice system does not work. It's broken. America is in for some very hard times because the very same people that are regulated by a constitution elected through a democratic system are now shirking away from the law and doing whatever the fuck they want to do. Where is the justice? It doesn't exist anymore. And when a people lose faith in the judicial system, the election process, when they lose faith in all of this, what are they left with? What are they left to believe in? Certainly not justice. Not at the hands of the bureaucrats that currently have it or dispense it at will. But I will tell you right now, and I'm going to show you some articles here to prove my point. Right now, Elon Musk is public enemy number one to the left. Did you not notice, like less than 2 weeks ago, when he gave Starlink to Ukraine for internet access, the left hailed him as a hero. They praised him. Nobody criticized him about what he was doing with his money. Nobody said a word. They loved them some Elon. They loved them some Teslas to combat pollution. But then Elon comes out and says, you know what? I am buying this platform and I'm going to make Twitter politically neutral. And I do believe Elon is going to do this. I genuinely do, because what I've seen so far, it's taken root. Conservatives on there are growing. Libertarians on there are growing. But Elon is public enemy number one. Why? Because Elon now controls probably one of the fastest growing social media apps. Now, they say Truth Social is above Twitter on the App Store. I don't know if I actually believe that. It's possible, but I just don't know if I actually believe that. Good for both platforms, because if you really think about it, Truth Social is going to be a right-leaning echo chamber. I mean, that's just undeniable. We know that. But now Twitter is more neutral-based. So now you've got two platforms that conservatives can actually go on and engage with, dare I say, the enemy. It's interesting. But now, if we go on Twitter, if we look at the MSM, if we look at the Biden administration, what Jen Psaki has said in regards to Elon Musk and Twitter, the reason he's public enemy number one is they are scared. For the last few months, if you've listened to this show, ladies and gentlemen, you've heard me say repeatedly, there is a red wave coming. We've already seen the beginnings of it. And again, please, hear me out when I say this. Never in the history of me being on social media, of me doing the show, or anything remotely have I ever jumped on these bandwagons of saying, hey, red wave coming, just because I believed in Trump so much. I do remember many times saying, I don't know how this election's going to go. I generally don't know. We'll have to wait and see. Political prophecy holds no weight with me. There's no point. I think the reason most people do it is to try and pat themselves on the back later and say, look, I called it, when in reality, you got lucky. It was a 50-50 chance. But I am being adamant and honest and earnest with you. I sincerely believe there is a red wave coming in midterms. And the reason I'm saying that is, historically speaking, normally the opposing side usually takes back one of the chambers. Well, the House is so close, it's 50-50 with Kamala being the split, last I checked. They're going to lose that one for sure. Senate, we'll have to watch. If the House turns red, Biden is put into a stalemate. He's got nothing. He can do nothing. But Republicans have to be completely on board on that. But let's digress back to the other point. The red wave is coming. And again, the metric in which I use to measure this is the responses of Democrats in Congress, the responses of liberal elites and what they say and what they do. They are afraid right now. They are scared. Because the very same thing that is destroying the DNC from within, which is the trans movement, which led to the groomer movement, which led to Disney being on board with this under the banner of LGBT, this is what's destroying them, and they see it. They know it. These Democrats are not as stupid as they would have us believe. They are not. When they see the massive pushback on the grooming of children, on the administration, Biden himself acknowledging and supporting transgender children, you are destroying your party. Democrats that are actually against this are afraid to speak out. Because at one point, the very monster that you created in regards to cancel culture will turn on you and chew and swallow you up in an instant, and you know it. The little puppy that you had in your backyard years ago that you've been feeding conservative Twitter accounts, Instagram accounts, businesses, that puppy is now a full-fledged monster and you can't control it. It is shredding your party from within, and I'm loving every single minute of it. You turn on each other so quick. And I'm here for it, quite honestly. But now Democrats that see these movements from within their organization and party say nothing. They can't. They don't want to be canceled. So they simply have to bide their time. There's nothing they can do. The extremists have taken over. The once funny SJWs that everybody tended to mock and make fun of are now leading your party. You've got the Jihad Squad. That AOC comes out and now says that if Congress is overtaken by Republicans again, it's going to be another January 6th. Rhetoric being spread to fearmonger the people and energize the voter base to turn out to the polls. It's too late. It's too late. You've done this to yourselves. You went after the children. I warned you. When you piss off Mama Bear, you're done. Many of you take that lightly. Many of you don't understand what it means as far as a mother and the bond with their child. When you anger a mother, she has a special connection with that child that a father will never have. That child lived inside of her for 9 months. That child is her. She is there to nurture, to give it life. It feeds from her breasts. It is a part of her. When the government goes after the one thing that she would give her life for, she will rile the people. She will bring the families to the polls. She will tell every single person out there what is going on. She will confront you. She will tell everybody that to hate you for what you've said. And this is what the DNC has done. I'm telling you, if the history books get it right, and I hope they do, that in election year and midterms of 2022, it was the mothers that stepped up and assumed the role of leading the people to the polls, saying, this will not stand. You will stay away from our children. We are in the midst of groomers and pedophiles, sexual deviants that want your children. They don't hide it anymore. Now look, you know me. I don't believe in conspiracy theories. 2016 up until now, there have been many. Many I've spoken out against, and a few I had to come back and say, you know what, I was wrong on this. The conspiracy theorism in regards to the grooming of children and the sexualization of children under the banner of the LGBT from the left is real. It is real. To deny it at this point means you have your head in the sand. I have a backup Facebook account. John Savage. I created it because essentially Facebook has destroyed my reach on my other accounts. And I accepted the friend request limit, which is up to 5,000. All of which, for the most part, by and large, I do not know these people. Avid supporters, and I appreciate it. But I'd seen on one post from a random woman. It was a picture, or it was a statement rather, of her saying, I don't understand what the big deal is with Disney World. Who cares what they want to do? Let's let our children have fun. I think they're just making a big deal out of nothing in regards to what Disney has done. Where have they said anything? Where have they done anything? I think DeSantis is going loopy. And I'm reading this post and thinking to myself, lady, do you live in the dark? Do you not watch the news? Did you not hear what the CEO of Disney himself said? The heiress of Disney herself saying? One of Disney's descendants who is trans, what he or she is saying? I don't know. Where have you been? When they openly say we want to make more LGBT content for the children. What? And then I click on her profile. And of course, her profile picture is of her in Disney. Color me shocked. What you're telling me is you enjoyed paying so much money to go see these cartoon characters and ride these rides that you didn't give a damn about the children they are trying to brainwash, about the lives they are trying to ruin, about the misinformation in regards to sexuality and gender identity that they're helping perpetuate to confuse our youth, to break down the nuclear family, to break down the common core threads of America that is comprised of multiple ethnicities from around the world. But the one thing that you can look at in most countries around the world is a somewhat version or variant of the nuclear family, a man and a woman with children. It creates a solid foundation for a society. It's needed in a society. You have to have it. They are quickly attempting to dissolve this. They don't like this. Now, I've said it before, and I will say it again. If you are gay or bi, you need to stand in solidarity with cutting the T and the Q off of the LGBTQ. The T and the Q are useless. They are not rooted in sexuality. They are rooted in identity. It has nothing to do with the LGB. Now, I support LGB rights. You want to love somebody? Love them. You want to have sex with them? Have sex. I don't care. It's none of my business, and it's not the government's. But the T and the Q movement is going to ruin you. I'm being honest here. I'm not trying to criticize. I'm not trying to sit here and cast shade at the gay community. I support your rights. But your movement and your community is crumbling. I made a post on my same Facebook, a funny little meme of somebody dressed as a furry trying to touch a dog, and the dog's clearly trying to get away from it. And the furry is labeled the LGBTQ and all these numbers behind it. And the dog is labeled as me, a homosexual, indicating that even most gay people, lesbian people, bi people, whomever, are saying the LGB is insane right now. The T has gone way too far, way too deep. It's true. Let's get back to it. The goal is to bring resources of DHS together to address this threat, Mayorkas said. Mayorkas himself also telling us the border is under control, yet we still see illegal immigrants piling over. Reports even say we're on the verge of another massive influx of illegal immigrants. What did they say? Up to 15 million now under the Biden administration that we read yesterday? I'm sorry, Mayorkas. It doesn't sound like you have it very much under control like you say it is. Notice how Psaki from the Biden administration, they point fingers at every single thing that's wrong with America and deflect blame to something else. Not once have I seen them take responsibility for a single action they committed and fucked up. Not once. I've been watching. I would have 10 times more respect for the Biden administration if they came out and said, you know what? We screwed up. We're going to go back to what we were doing before because it was working. Not once have I seen them do it. Instead, it's blame and deflection, red herring, goalpost moving left and right. Gaslighting to levels that I have never seen. Blaming illegal immigration and the flawed system on how Governor Greg Abbott's policies in Texas as far as searching vehicles at the border is slowing it down. Are you kidding me? But you know, here's the point that I feel like most people are missing, especially Democrats. They blatantly lie to you. They misinterpret, they deflect, and the overall reason is because, well, ask yourself, why do you think they do that to you? If the answer you came up with is because they think you're stupid, I'd say you're 100% right. The common voter is a single issue voter. They don't give a shit, really, about what's going on in the political spectrum. Not in depth. Not beyond maybe a trending social cause that's hitting Instagram, that's followed by a hashtag with some cute little tagline that means virtually nothing. Beyond that, policies, what's going on, people just don't care about until it's too late. Well, now it's too late, and people are starting to care. Gas prices are still increasing. Cars are insanely expensive. Inflation continues. Even the White House has admitted no end in sight. And it's only going to get worse. The goal is to bring the resources of the DHS together to address this threat, Mayorkas said, adding that he's right in saying it's a threat. You're right. The truth is a threat to your ministry of misinformation and propaganda. You're 100% right. It is a threat to you. You don't like facts being thrown back into your face, countering the baseless accusations that you continuously make and have been shown on multiple occasions to be wrong. But rather than acknowledge that you were wrong, you double down and you gaslight. Again, because they feel you, the listener, or the viewer, are stupid. Am I wrong? Am I wrong? I don't think I am. Why else would they do it? Alec Baldwin. That's right. He killed a guy. Well, girl. The audacity of this man. The audacity, and normally Josh and I joke about this, but I've got to tell you, this scumbag, this waste of life, this piece of trash, this disgusting human being. Let me just read you the article, and you decide for yourself. Audio. Alec Baldwin complained Helena Hutchins, the lady he shot, shooting cost him jobs. Now, new video footage has emerged from the actual shooting, clearly showing, and if you're watching me on Twitter, Twitch, or Facebook, you will see the picture that is condemning him. His finger is on the trigger. Alec claims he didn't pull the trigger. The information or the video or the audio, all of this is damning. You cannot recover from this. They said this essentially puts the nail in your legal coffin. But let's not even focus on that right now. Let's focus on what this scumbag had to say. Recently released audio of phone calls with a Santa Fe detective reveals actor Alec Baldwin complained about how cinematographer Helena Hutchins' shooting on the set of Rust cost him jobs. Baldwin also badgered police to grill the film crew over a box of missing bullets. Why does a box of missing bullets have anything to do with why you killed a cinematographer? It doesn't matter. You're just deflecting. You are just trying to point them in a different direction. That's all you're trying to do. You're trying to fabricate something that doesn't tie into the fact as a method of distraction, but it doesn't tie into the fact that you did not inspect the firearm. You put your finger on the trigger and you pulled the trigger, aiming said firearm at Helena Hutchins. You killed her. You should be charged. You were negligent. The armorer was as well, but the armorer didn't pull the trigger. You did. You did. The call with Detective Alexandra Hancock in the week after the fatal shooting of Hutchins shows Baldwin telling the detective that the incident has cost him jobs and has been really tough. Oh, poor Will, baby. You having a bad time? You having a bad time, Alec? Yeah? You're just not doing so good? Well, I mean, it could be worse. You could have been on a film set and somebody shot you in the chest, but, you're right. You poor guy. You've got it so bad. Living in your mansion with your millions of dollars. Kids never having to worry about working a single day in their life. Their college is paid for. Generational and inheritance wealth. It's a thing. Yes. But hey, you don't get to act a little bit. Pretend to be somebody else. Must be so difficult. I'm sorry, Alec. I feel bad for you. I'm just kidding. I wish the roles would have been reversed and she shot you. You deserve it. You're a piece of shit. He says, you know what's really tough for me? Is I have 6 kids. You know who doesn't? Helena Hutchins, because you killed her. Baldwin is heard saying, we had to tell my older daughter today what happened, and she started to cry. She said, I'm going to go to school, and everyone's going to be making fun of me, my 8-year-old said. Oh. Well, hold on. That's so horrible. Man. That's got to be such a terrible thing to have to deal with. Oh, man. I mean, it could be worse. You could be dead. But hey, your 8-year-old's going to get made fun of a little bit that her daddy's a murderer. Oh. Can we all just take a moment and say a silent prayer for Alec and his family as they go through this tremendously difficult time where, they're dealing with the ramifications of him murdering somebody. While we're at it, why don't we pray for OJ? Half the jobs I had lined up Between now and the second half of the year, they fired me. The actor added, they didn't want me to come. Well, yeah, I'm afraid you're probably going to murder more of my set people. Elsewhere in the audio, Baldwin is heard badgering Hancock to find a missing box of 45 long Colts that he said mysteriously disappeared and reappeared, and begging the detective to indulge him on how a live round ended up in his gun. It doesn't matter how it ended. I mean, clearly somebody put it there and screwed up, but had you inspected the ammunition as well as the firearm, you would not be having this problem. Again, you cannot say you didn't know, Alec. You've been trained in movies your entire career in using guns. In fact, I just watched you not too long ago in The Hunt for the Red October. The scene in the boiler room, you're holding a gun. You're shooting said gun. You can't tell me you didn't know. You knew. Now you're playing ignorant. They were missing a single box of 45 long Colts. He said, the box disappeared, it reappeared. I said, what was the length of time it was gone? She said, I don't remember. Baldwin went on to say that while he doesn't want to be a conspiracy theorist, he wonders if someone maybe tampered with this. Oh, so the story's changing now. It's changing from, I didn't pull the trigger, to where somebody's tampering with my gun, putting real ammunition in there. Well, didn't you also say that the hammer dropped on its own when you didn't pull the trigger, which they said is a 1 in a million possibility of happening in regards to malfunctioning of that style of firearm, that style of pistol? Interesting. This guy is a liar. And again, the justice system protects the elites because he's still not in jail. Weird. Top Michigan Democrats question election outcomes that favored Republicans. Oh, you got to love that. You got to love that. Wait. So now it's okay to question election results and call into question election integrity. Now it's okay. Do you not notice a trend here, ladies and gentlemen? Every time the left loses, they suddenly adopt the talking points of the right. It's so interesting. Twitter goes neutral. Suddenly, Democrats are all on board for revisiting Section 230. You people are the worst losers I've ever seen. Sean King, Talcum X. Martin Luther Cream himself. White as Casper's butthole. Well, not butthole, but butt. We'll go with that. Comes out and he's returned to Twitter. And he says, I've talked with Google and Amazon and all these other companies, saying that if Elon does not put into place a moderation set, that they will remove Twitter from the App Store. Y'all are some sorry losers. Man, do you want to take your ball and go home? Do you want to cry, bitch, and moan and whine about any time you get beat? Capitalism prevails. And isn't it interesting, socialists and communists, mainly on the DNC side, isn't it interesting that it took capitalism to purchase a platform that was endorsed through government censorship, or protected by, rather? It took capitalism. Weird. It's almost as if we see a trend with non-capitalistic countries, let's say communist countries, that censorship prevails and truth dies in the darkness as, well, yeah, you know. I need my coffee this morning. Michigan Secretary of State Jocelyn Bennett is set to receive an award next month for defending democracy against those who raise concerns about the 2020 election results. Meanwhile, Benson and other Michigan Democrat leaders have a history of expressing concern about Republican-won elections or exploiting the Electoral College process. The JFK Library Foundation announced last week Benson will receive the time-honored Profile and Courage Award and heroized Benson for certifying the 2020 election results in Michigan in the face of objections raised by former President Donald Trump and his supporters. Protesters called Benson a traitor and a criminal for defending the certification of Michigan's accurate results, which favored Joe Biden. The award description read, Benson, the state's chief elections officer, did not waver and defended the will of Michigan voters. Benson, who's repeatedly disavowed election deniers and democracy deniers, said in a statement she was deeply moved and grateful for this incredible recognition. And yet that same Jocelyn Bennett tweets out, "We wouldn't put an arsonist in charge of the fire department. We wouldn't give a bank robber the key to the vault. So let's stop election deniers who might refuse to certify accurate election results they disagree with from taking over our democracy." That's interesting, because while you're winning, it's a democracy. When it's not, it's an authoritarian dictatorship to you. How do we know this? Look at how you respond to any time you lose. You lose Twitter, government censorship, you start calling for it. In the face of possible death, of a pandemic, instantly you start calling for government regulation and forced vaccinations on the people. Anytime you start losing, you resort to authoritative methods. This is what you are at heart. So when I tell you, I don't care on whether you live or die, I mean that. I mean that. We are not fellow countrymen. You are communists in hiding. You are fascists. You are authoritarians. You are no different than the Nazis. Bold statement to make, but it's true. You just don't hate based upon a final solution style. You just hate based upon your political narrative. I give no care to you, or your livelihood, or your well-being. I don't care. And this is not an initial reaction or initial action of John. This is a reaction of how you have treated us for the last 4 to 6 years. The tolerance ends now. I have no tolerance for you. I loathe and detest you. It's just the truth. So as you scamper away from your Twitter accounts, I'm applauding. Good. Less influence, less voices. I like that. We're not done yet with Ukraine. $3 billion, right? To fund the proxy war with Russia that the Obama administration helped facilitate. Well, now, get this. We're not done. Biden asks Congress for $33 billion to support Ukraine through September. $33 billion of your taxpayer money going to Ukraine, one of the most corrupted governments in the world. Because why? How is Ukraine our problem? They're not a NATO country. They're not a NATO ally. They're not even in NATO. So I don't understand the predicament here. $33 billion. Meanwhile, ladies and gentlemen, we are so concerned with freedom overseas that the EU helped facilitate this because they're too stupid to know what they're doing. Meanwhile, we have a southern border that is wide the hell open. We have illegal immigrants costing us millions per year. And the federal government simply says, when a National Guard soldier drowns to death trying to rescue 2 drug dealers, whom he didn't know were drug dealers at the time, who had been repeatedly arrested and returning over the border, their response is, that's a Texas National Guard issue. That's not a federal issue because we didn't have anything to do with that. Essentially saying we're not doing our jobs. One of the biggest, if not the most paramount role of the federal government is the sovereignty of the nation, the protection of borders. You were so quick to shut down international travel, to make it impossible to enter or exit this country without some type of vaccination passport. Oh, and by the way, I'm very proud to admit this. When I went on my vacation from Alaska to Hawaii, and they needed proof of vaccination. Well, yeah. You gotta love Photoshop. Fuck your system. And fuck this government. Now, I'm not saying I did Photoshop. I'm not saying I had anything to do with that. As he sits here and smiles, sipping from his cup of coffee. Hawaii was great, by the way. Oh, and I caught COVID again after leaving Hawaii. You gotta love it. So another $33 billion going over to Ukraine. But forget the poverty that we have here in America. You liberals that crucify and speak out against Elon.
You know what he could have done with the $45 billion? He could have ended world hunger. He could have done this. He could have done that.
What you don't talk about is your own government's misspending. You're fine sending $33 billion. Oh, it'll vote. They'll vote, and I'm probably sure they're going to get it. I don't know. That I could be wrong on that one. But liberals by and large are going to support this because why? Oh, we have to stand with Ukraine. Oh, we most certainly do. Look, I'll be honest with you. I don't give a flying fuck about Ukraine. Ukraine is not my problem. Ukraine is not putting food on my table. Ukraine is not securing our southern border. Ukraine is not our problem. This is another push, and every single Republican that is supporting this globalistic idea that we have to support non-allies in a fight against Russia. Russia can take them for all I fucking care. It's not our problem. Well, what's going to stop Russia from continuing? Because it used to be a part of Russia, and the EU has been bullying Russia for years, and they got sick of it. You poked the bear, now the bear is biting you back. Does it suck that innocents are dying? Yes, but this is a result of corrupted governments around the world getting involved, and innocent civilians are dying as a result of this. This should be an indicator that people should turn on their governments and root them out and execute them, because it's those very same bureaucrats sitting in those offices in your government buildings that are sending your sons and daughters off to war. Meanwhile, they're not touched. Their children are not touched. They feel nothing. They sleep in their beds at night as comfy as can be, dreaming their happy little dreams of sniffing and sexualizing children. Meanwhile, they want to send your money that is stolen from you by the government to help out this country that does nothing for us outside of make the Biden family even richer. We are protecting corrupted bureaucrats' interests in Ukraine. That's all we're doing. So to you veterans that are applauding yourself on social media for going over and fighting the war against the evil Russians, hey, good job. Good job. You're such heroes. No, you're pawns in this game, and you're too stupid to think for yourselves. You just want to fight. You want to rekindle that title of hero because you miss it based upon what you did in Iraq and Afghanistan. Have you not learned yet? Did the fall of Afghanistan, the 20-year war, not show you or teach you anything? Look, this is me you're talking to. The angry drill sergeant that screams at the camera about fat people, that at one time believed in the fascist idea of forcing people to say the Pledge of Allegiance. This is the same guy preaching to you now saying, I had it wrong. That was not patriotism. That was fascism under the guise of patriotism. If I'm willing to stop and do a 180, you should be willing to at least stop and give the thought some consideration. What are you fighting for? It's not freedom. Not like you think. But yeah, you go on. You go fight and die and see what happens. Meanwhile, the majority of Americans, they have their cute little Ukraine flags and their profile banners and their stickers on their cars and all these great things. Well, where are they? Hey, we stand with Ukraine. It's a lot of words that mean nothing because the last I checked, words don't stop tanks. Words don't stop Russian soldiers. All words do are melt liberals. That's it. And the Russians, I've got news for you, are not liberals, and they do not care. Deborah Messing, pleads with Democrats to stay on Twitter until after midterm elections. Again, another metric by which to show how scared liberals are. This is real. Ladies and gentlemen, do not get comfortable. Do not get complacent. Do not sit there and think for one instant that these people are not going to turn out to the polls. They will. Democrats are scared. Liberals are afraid. That does not give you a reason to stay home on election days. You need to post more. Talk to your neighbors. Talk to your friends. Make your voices heard on social media. Make your voices heard to your friends and family. Show them what's going on with inflation. Show them what's going on with this country. How can you sit there and with two open eyes and two open ears see and hear what's going on and not take issue with it? Do not get complacent. I'm warning you. The victory is not secure until it's over and all the ballots are counted. As leftists threaten to leave Twitter and protest over Elon Musk's takeover of the social media company, Hollywood star Deborah Messing is pleading with fellow Democrats to remain on the platform until after the midterm elections in November. Why? Because they want the influence there, and that's why the Biden administration is going in there to go after Musk to keep that sphere of influence over, because they know the government no longer controls it. Musk does. He took it private. And now they want to investigate him. Oh, and didn't you hear the most recent things? Musk has ties to China. Interesting. Now we're going to find out Musk was on Epstein Island. Musk was this. Musk was that. Every slanderous article they can try and drum up. Because if we've not taken a lesson from the Hillary playbook, we can fabricate the Steele dossier, fund it, have it circulated around Congress and the world, and then only years later find it to be debunked by a small little article on CNN that admits it, but the damage is done and it's too late. They'll do the same thing to Elon. They'll do the same thing to any app that is created that counters the leftist narrative. Getter, Parler, MeWe, all these apps that were promoting free speech. Do you not see a trend with liberals, the lowest form of scum on this earth? That any time an app is created to counter the censorship that they endorse and embrace, they label as full of white extremism, white nationalism. What? This is how scared they are. And this is why, as far as their lives go, I don't care. You're for censorship. You want us to shut up. You want us to keep quiet. You want us suppressed. You are no different than the Nazis. You are no different than the Communist Party in China. You are no different than any of these people. You're just too scared to actually go forward and be violent about it. But trust me, if you had your way, I guarantee 100% you would. You are the enemies of freedom. You are the enemies of liberty. Therefore, you are the enemies of this country, and you should be treated as such. There's a difference in having a difference of opinion, but there is also a difference in calling for the open suppression of people that disagree with you and censoring. These people are scum. I've said it many times. I don't want to share a country with you. In fact, I'm for the sterilization, self-imposed, mind you, not forced. When you don't want to have children, I'm for it. We don't need you reproducing anymore. You nut jobs, passing your insanity on to another generation that we have to go in there and fix because you're too stupid. I mean, I guess you're welcome in a sense. Disney Special District says, we don't know where we are going after DeSantis signs law. Well, I'll tell you this much. I don't fucking care. I'll tell you where you can go, where you are going, and he's waiting for you. The Reedy Creek Improvement District's Board of Supervisors is stumped as far as what new legislation will mean for its financial obligations. Well, aren't they now going to pay their fair share? Isn't that what liberals have wanted all along? Pay your fair share? Well, now you are. Oh, but suddenly liberals have a problem with it. Isn't that funny? Kind of makes me chuckle. You want Musk to pay his fair share. Elizabeth Warren calling for Musk to pay his fair share and impose a wealth tax. You said nothing for Disney. You say nothing for Bezos. You say nothing for the rest of these clowns. It's only those that go against you and your political narrative. These people are unhinged. These people are insane. They are truly evil human beings at heart. The private governing body of Walt Disney World, the Reedy Creek Improvement District, is unsure of what exact repercussions will be from the legislation Florida Governor Ron DeSantis signed to dissolve it in June of 2023. It's already been passed. It's happening. And guess what? DeSantis isn't going anywhere. The Republicans have taken over Florida. It is almost completely red. You've got no chance in hell of overturning this. None. Disney knows this. They're afraid. They're scared. And you should be. You should be. Let the Mickey Mouse proverbial head on the Republican pike serve as a lesson to all you other woke companies out there that want to attempt to sexualize children and push the LGBT bullshit narrative on the youth. Disney's going down. They're plummeting. Netflix still going down and plummeting. You do it to yourself, and I'm just sitting here watching you make the mistakes over and over and over again and applauding as you do it. Magnify their voices. Magnify what they say, ladies and gentlemen. Share the posts that they make. Tell the world of what the CEO is saying. Educate the masses. Don't stand down and say nothing. Your country needs you right now to, again, fight the quote-unquote disinformation battle. It's almost like there's a trend with Democrats. Whatever they accuse the right of doing, usually, by and large, they themselves are doing themselves. It's weird how that works. It's fucking weird how that works. And Elon Musk takes notice. After being urged to look into large Twitter accounts with fake influence. This is a real thing. You can buy followers. You can buy these bot accounts. Why do you think so many of these Democrats' accounts are being shredded from followers? It's not that their followers are just leaving them. Well, I mean, a lot of them are. They're leaving Twitter. But they had a lot of bot followers as well. Elon Musk seems to be taking his role to clean up Twitter seriously after being asked by conservatives on the platform to look into accounts that have fake influence, such as accounts as purchasing followers. The billionaire signaled he was looking at the issue. On Wednesday, following a series of tweets from Musk that indicated he was looking at Twitter issues, the new owner responded to conservative personality Dave Rubin's request that he investigate some accounts, including the New York Times, that were getting poor engagement in proportion to the numbers of followers they have. Rubin surmised that some accounts have bought their followers instead of letting their users grow naturally. This is a real thing. Actually, both sides do this, though. Rubin directly appealed to Musk on Twitter. He wrote, "Hey, Elon Musk, as long as you're digging, check out how New York Times and Forbes bought their Twitter followers for fake influence." Rubin then explained the New York Times has 53 million followers and rarely gets even 50 retweets, and added, "I could post a banana emoji and a pic of an 80s sitcom star and get more." Rubin then provided his point with a subsequent tweet featuring a picture of Estelle Getty from the Golden Girls captioned with a banana emoji. That tweet alone had over 4,000 likes by Wednesday afternoon. Musk responded to Rubin's post saying, "Yeah, I noticed that too. Pretty weird." Democrats, you're about to take a serious beating on Twitter. He's going after the spam bots. You're about to lose a lot. And lastly, but most certainly not the least, New York City Mayor Adams angers police union with new cell phone rule, saying our justice system is failing. Did I fail to mention that a crime has spiked in New York since Adams took office by 43%? 43% surge in crime since this guy took office. New York City Mayor Eric Adams is cracking down on police officers using their cell phones while on duty, all while rampant crime continues to rock the Big Apple under his leadership. President of the New York PD Detectives Union, Paul DiGiacomo, slammed the mayor on Fox and Friends first for his remarks, noting cell phones are now an intricate part of policing. What we should be concentrating more on, the criminals that cops looking into their phones as they should be, Diacomo told host Carl Shimkus. What needs to be done is the police are doing their job. We've made over 2,000 arrests since the mayor has been in office with guns, and we've made over 10,000 arrests in the last 2 years regarding illegal firearms. It's not something I'd be bragging about. What's failing is our justice system, he continued. There needs to be a mandatory minimum of time spent in jail if you're caught with an illegal firearm. That will dramatically cut down on the violence in New York City. Well, again, here's where I kind of stand aloof from both sides of this. There's no such thing as an illegal firearm. I don't agree with it. I don't believe it. There should be no regulation over firearms. Well, John, that would just be open warfare. We have over 350 million guns in this country. A lot of machine guns. If we had a gun problem, you damn well know it. Earlier this week, Mayor Adams announced that he would take aggressive measures to ensure transit officers refrain from being on cell phones while on duty, asking residents to send him photos of any officers who defy the ask. You cannot be serious with this. You realistically cannot be serious with this. You sit there and you say there are two types of Americans. Ones that live in New York and ones that want to live in New York. Buddy, your state is losing people left and right because they don't want to stay in the shithole that you have created. But now your focus is on officers using their cell phones. That's what you're really harping on right now. Forget homelessness, assaults in the subway system, drug use. This is what you're concerned with. It's almost as if you liberals continuously destroy your own cities because the projects that should be paramount are cast aside. And instead you focus on cosmetic bullshit. Because you're so afraid of what the public might think. Oh my God. Your job is not to care what the public thinks. Your job is to protect and serve the public. But again, when liberals by and large control social media, they have the loudest voice in the room. So therefore, they're going to bend the knee to this bullshit. Well, you've lost Twitter. All you've got at this point are Facebook and Instagram. And trust me, there's changes coming. I can feel it. There are changes coming. Well, all right, ladies and gentlemen, that wraps up today's episode of the All American Savage Show podcast. I want to say a big thank you for everybody that tuned in today. If you enjoyed the podcast, hit that share button. Leave us a review on iTunes or retweet, share it on Facebook, on Instagram. Tag us at the All American Savage Show. We sincerely appreciate your love and support. And as always, this episode is brought to you by shellshockcbd.com. If you're having problems sleeping, we can help you. We have our rack out gummies that are 15 milligrams of CBD and 5 milligrams of melatonin. They are THC free. You have my personal guarantee. You will not fail a drug test, and they will help you achieve a full night's sleep. Don't believe me? Try it out. We actually have sample packs for $5. Again, every batch is third-party tested to be sure there is no THC. And every single time we've come out and not one single person has pissed hot using our products. So again, those are the rack out gummies. You can get them in sample packs or you get them in full packs, 30 count bags. You only start with about half or one. That'll usually do you. So until tomorrow, a big thank you and appreciate you for being here, for all the subs and donations and bits on Twitch. I'm grateful to my Lost Savage community. Make sure you give me a follow on Twitter at Sergeant Savage, as throughout the day we continue taking the fight to the enemy over there and trolling the ever-loving shit out of those retards. So until tomorrow, as always,